Good afternoon. My name is Zethu Gqola, and I'm going to be moderating today's panel, which is on unlocking the soundscape of tomorrow. And I'm sitting with 4 incredible human beings that I would love to introduce. First, we have Justin van Wyk, who is the CEO of Big Concerts and Ticketmaster South Africa. Big Concerts is the premier concert promoter in South Africa, and Ticketmaster South Africa, the world's leading ticketing platform. These dynamic entities are vital components of Live Nation Entertainment, a global live entertainment powerhouse with a vast scope encompassing thousands of shows, festivals, venues, and artists. Justin's leadership plays a pivotal role in delivering unparalleled live experiences worldwide. It's quite an...
Listen, that intro makes me want to clap, guys.
You must never forget. Make yours shorter. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna try summarize this phenomenal woman. This is Manuela. She is the MD of One Eye Jack. She's also the CEO of the DSTV Content Creator Awards, and she is the executive producer of the Savannah Comics Choice Awards. Then we've got Lyndon Barends, who is the MD, Group and Commercial Strategy at Arena Holdings. And then we've got Ruig, who is the CEO of Steyn Entertainment, the Managing Director of properties like Stay Low, as well as the Marabi Club, which is a phenomenal jazz club in Joburg. If you're ever there, please do check it out, as well as Hallmark House Hotel and the iconic Rocking the Daisies.
And we used to work together.
We actually used to work together. Interesting story. I used to work with both Manuela at One Eye Jack once upon a time and also with Deus. So thank you guys. Really did give me the foundations of my career. Thank you so much. So we're going to first start to look at shifting consumer behaviors within the live music and music entertainment space. So first up, I'm going to ask Manuela, the way in which consumers experience music and events has drastically changed, especially post-COVID, particularly the way that brands engage with customers and the talent that brands hire to be a part of these events. How can you give us an example of a comparison between how brand acquisition worked back then to now?
Brand acquisition of artists and booking them for events. So it's quite interesting. So we produce events and curate events for big corporate brands like Volkswagen, British American Tobacco, etc. And there used to be a time when we were producing a show that we would bring artists on board who were particularly good at what they do. So a really good headliner that could help us drive ticket sales. And especially with brands, a lot of brands are creating their own event properties now as opposed to necessarily sponsoring other event properties. But we would book artists that were going to help us sell tickets or give tickets, away. But now we're finding a lot of brands are looking at us, or we are recommending artists that have a dual kind of role. So not only a musician that might be able to headline a particular concert, but somebody who might also be able to promote the event using their social media platforms. So there's kind of like a hybrid model of we'll look at booking somebody if they can, also maybe produce great content in the build-up to the event. Potentially we'll look at someone like Muesli or Bontle Modesele, who might be able to be a performer at the show, but also host the show. And they've got obviously huge social media reach so they can help promote it. So there's been quite a transition in sort of how we look at booking artists for corporate events.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. I just want to put a disclaimer to everyone. Because of how different everyone's role is here and the scope of knowledge that they're going to share, we are going to be rapidly jumping through various topics that we found were going to be very useful for you guys to understand and learn about. So as we keep swerving, just bear with us. Dale, I want to point this question towards you. Steyn Entertainment went from hosting 2 Rocking the Daisies festivals a year to now hosting an event every other month with an international artist. I wanted to find out, how do you make the decision on who to book, and how do you pick a price point for these tickets in such a competitive space?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that it's not a perfect science. I think we also chatted briefly, Justin, around the fact that booking artists is a very high-risk business, and it's actually the reason why there isn't a lot of established businesses that have been doing this for years and years outside of maybe big concerts, because it's a very difficult thing to get right. From our side, we've got a team of guys that are continuously suggesting artists to us. We've got like a process we run through where we've got like a tier. We'll say $50,000 to $100,000. We know what $50,000 to $100,000 means in terms of ticket sales, and we know what it means in terms of price point. And then we run through like a variety of different types of people, younger, older, what kind of music they like. And then we get a feel for if it's the kind of show that the guys would do. We do that internally. But we tier it ourselves, so $50,000 to $100,000, and we say 795 Rand ticket price. Does that make sense? Will we do 4,000 people? Will we do 3,000 people? And then what I've been trying to do recently is to try and like bolt on small little intimate shows to try and add to the bottom line. And it's worked really well, where we just had FKJ out. And what we did with FKJ, and he was actually the difference between that show making money and not making money, was we did a beautiful little intimate show in the jazz club, and we charged 2,500 Rand a ticket for 250 people. And that part of the show that we added on right at the end was actually the difference between the show making money and not making money. So the one thing is flexibility in how you're presenting the artist, understanding that there's limited audiences that can buy at different ticket prices. And so, you know, you might have a 495 Rand ticket and you can sell 3,000 tickets, but there's a very good chance, specifically with South Africa's split, you know, the income gap in South Africa, that there's a very good chance that 895 is going to sell you nothing, but 2,500 Rand intimate small show is going to start selling again, you know. And so we've been looking at it on those two sides of the spectrum. But like I said, it's the most critical part of the business, and it's not an exact science. But for me, I look to try and say, if I can get 4 out of 5 right, I've done well. You know, I allow us the odd failure because it's almost inevitable. Yeah.
I want to point that question towards you, Justin. How does big concerts look at the way that people engage with music in order to come to the conclusion on who to book for these stadium shows? Because they are huge shows.
Can I go with it's a guess? Well, we look at so many different things, and it's always difficult having a US parent company. You look at the numbers that they do, you see it in the industry publications. Beyonce's on her way to turning $1 billion, Taylor Swift's turned $1 billion, Elton John's just done under $1 billion. You know, you've got acts like Bad Bunny. I didn't even know who he was until like a year and a half ago. He goes and plays 2 shows in LA, walks away with $18 million.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, those sort of things. So we look at what's happening in the rest of the world. We look at what's happening in South Africa. We were quite late to the party, so to speak, at the end of COVID. A lot of the other markets had opened up well before us. The Northern Hemisphere had 2 good summers under their belt, and we only started at the end of last year. So I was telling Lyndon, when we opened up shop, we had absolutely no idea what was going to work, what people were going to be willing to pay. We had no idea what things are going to cost, because what things cost in 2019 when you had 20 suppliers is a whole different ball game to when you walk in here and you've got maybe one guy who's, you know, he's gone bankrupt, but he knows how to do it. He can't get a line of credit, and suddenly he needs to supply a whole stadium full of stuff. So, you know, we were able to respond to the demand. And the good thing is that the experiential economy, the demand for live, the power of live has never been stronger. We're seeing that around the world. We're seeing that in South Africa. We're just saying from the 23rd of September of this month through the 6th of October, it's insane.
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing this for 20, 30 odd years, and we have never seen so many big acts, so many local festivals and experiences all available at the same time. Now, they're either all going to crash, which we hope is not going to be the case, because that will be terrible for the industry, or they're all going to do exceptionally well. And if it's like the rest of the world, they will all do exceptionally well. But nowadays, it's so difficult to know who's popular. You look at streaming stats. Like, I can tell you who's top 10 trending across everything local and international. How that translates into ticket sales, you absolutely have no idea. You know, we went to market with a 17,000 Rand ticket for Kevin Hart. You know, the next day my phone is ringing off, like completely off the charts. Journalists, Like there was an outcry, but the bigger the outcry, the more tickets we sold at 17,000 Rand a ticket.
Incredible.
And you got an NFT and a jacket and a meet and greet. So it wasn't just ripping the public. The demand was so deep and so big, but I had no idea that that was going to sell. So the bottom line is it is a bit of a guessing game.
I want to point back to you talking about the experiential economy having had a boom. With all of these events, all of these concerts, is it sustainable to be a promoter at this time, both business-wise as well as environmentally?
Well, that's a very good question. So again, we were talking before this panel. It's very difficult as an African promoter because the rest of the world is absolutely firing off its chart, like completely off its rocket. We have not seen it slow down in any form. You know, just this week, Travis Scott went on sale in North America, 500,000 tickets sold on the pre-sale. Didn't even reach the public's hands. You know, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, the list goes on. I mean, let's not even talk about Drake. 53 arena shows sold out in a heartbeat. So those acts don't even have to look beyond North America. They don't even have to go anywhere else. They can play North America over and over and over again, and they'll never run out of money. They'll never run out of demand. And what we're seeing now, Selena Gomez has just done it. Taylor Swift's done it to a certain extent. Beyonce's definitely done it. They're no longer touring the world. They're saying, I'm going to go drop in London. I'm going to play 5 Tottenham stadiums. If you want to come and see me in the rest of world, as the Americans see us, fly to London. Because for me to take 300 people down to you in Africa is difficult. So from an African perspective, it's difficult. The money we compete with in the Middle East, what the Saudis are putting up, what the Formula Ones are putting up, that's difficult. But the demand from the consumer is endless. It's really on another level. We haven't seen that demand in South Africa yet. It hasn't peaked. You know, we're going to our second big summer. We don't think it's going to stop, you know, and I'll finish now. Do you remember the Spanish flu that everybody talks about,
Yes.
which we remember from the pandemic days? That sparked what we still see today as the travel craze. So back then, the first thing everybody wanted to do post-Spanish flu is travel and see the world. What we're seeing now is what everybody wants to do post-pandemic is they want to go to a live experience. They want to go to a festival. They want to go to a market. They want to go to theater. They want to do something out of home. So I don't think it stops anytime soon.
Okay, thank you. That was so informative. Dale, I want to switch it to you. And I want to look more at green sustainability because with Rocking the Daisies, it's one of the greenest festivals in the country. Do you have any tips for events, large and small, on how they can limit their carbon footprint in terms of what they do? Or to give examples of what you guys have done at Daisies?
Sure. So the first thing is, I mean, we've been very big on this for years now. I think we were still working together when we introduced the can cups, which was a first actually internationally at any festivals where we went away from single-use plastics. It was quite funny because after about a day and a half we ran out of cans.
Yeah, it was horrific.
And so we had this the intention was no single-use plastics, no cups, no plastic cups anywhere. We're going to do this world first. It's going to be amazing. And after a day and a half, there was pictures all over social media of people getting drinks from plastic cups at Rocking the Daisies. And so the first thing for me is intention is important.
Absolutely.
Execution is difficult. And we're not always going to get it right. But I still think it should be applauded, you know? And so the first thing, so we've been quite consistent with that, and I think that can cup or the cardboard bottled water, that thing has really picked up since then, and it's actually quite rare to find just plastic cups at an event, at a big size event. So I think that was great. I think we do recycling across the festival, easily identifiable recycling, which makes a difference. Something that I think is very valuable that we're doing this year, that we have done previous years is, you know, tankers of water with like stainless steel bottles, so that guys can fill up their own water, free water that they can just continuously fill up, because it's difficult to see sometimes post-festival what the place looks like when you aren't doing these things. Another thing that we've been trying to do is book artists locally when we're doing things. So if we're doing a Joburg show, we try and keep the opening acts to local acts. With Rockin' the Daisies, we try and make sure that wherever possible we are limiting the flights that we're taking. So that's not something that's going to be obvious to the public, but it makes a big difference. It stimulates the economy locally. And then when you've got that general mentality with your festival goer coming to the festival, you see it playing out with your customer. And I think that's a big thing, is you need to be consistent with your messaging. When you're consistent with your messaging, your customer or festival goer starts to buy into that conceptually, and then they start doing the recycling themselves. And so, yeah, I'd say those are probably easy to do things that aren't particularly complicated without getting into grey water and black water and those sorts of things. But those are just a handful of easy things to get into. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. Lyndon, do you have any sustainability models that you've adopted in any of your businesses that you've seen have a lasting impact?
I think from a business perspective, it's important that you have consistency firstly. If you talk from business sustainability perspective, to have that consistency with the Joy of Jazz, we're now going into its 25th year. Right?
Incredible, congratulations.
And you are able to, people can plan for it, artists can look forward to it in terms of job creation. But what we did a couple of years ago, we also had a series around the country. Joy of Jazz series, if those of you are old enough to remember. And with that, you really create skills development and you ensure that you can sustain the product. But we have a challenge here, is that coming back to your American groups or the foreigners coming across. Firstly, they want to come with, you won't believe it, they want to come with 200 or 300 people, right? And they want to charge you the dollar equivalent. So the commercial model must change quite drastically. So you'll find that we must have naming rights sponsors and supporting sponsors, etc. Where in the US and UK, you can fill the stadium and
Absolutely.
It really pays for
and
it.
this side, you need a bit of financial assistance.
Yeah, you need a lot. So in terms of ensuring that you can sustain it, you must plan very well, get your commercial model right, make sure that you have social impact, that you are assisting the community, ensure that you are giving opportunities. And then the issue around that you touched on now, Dale, on the environmental sustainability, just to take it from that perspective, that must be a non-negotiable, because we bring big crowds together, we have an opportunity to influence, we have an opportunity to educate. Climate change is real, so what we did is we joined the Global Citizen Movement, and our chair is the African patron, because we felt that, number one, we wanted to promote the girl child and women and the status in society. Number two, we wanted to work towards eradicating the barriers that keep us in poverty. And thirdly, it was around climate change and being able to be part of that race to zero. So we must ensure that we have no single-use cups and things like that that can be reused, like your water bottles, etc. And we must insist as promoters and as event organizers to make sure that we contribute to environmental sustainability.
Amazing, thank you so much. I now want to go look at transformational innovations. And I want to start with Justin, and then I'm going to go to Manuela. Manuela, I know you hate a wild card, but it's coming. Brace yourself. So big concerts used to use CompuTicket. I'm sure everyone in this room has bought a ticket from CompuTicket. And then you guys started using Ticketmaster, which is the biggest ticketing platform in the world. And obviously that came with a lot of technological advancements for big concerts. Can you share how that was a revolutionary way in pushing the business forward?
Yeah, it's been a revelation for our business. Again, coming out of COVID, we had no idea what people were willing to pay for tickets. And so the very first thing, and it sounds like it's such basics, but it's not freely available in the South African marketplace, is the ability to dynamically price your tickets. And dynamically priced doesn't mean just up, it means down as well. And that was the first and major thing that we did, is we wanted the ability to be able to respond to the South African consumer and find that fan that's willing to pay 17,000 Rand for a ticket so that they can subsidize the fan who's only willing to pay or can only pay 250 Rand. That was the first thing. The second thing is knowing who the fan is, right? So we've all spoken about digital marketing. Digital marketing is not a new thing. I mean, Facebook's been around for 10, 15, 20, I don't know how long, 15 years. All of this digital marketing has been around for a very, very long time. But in the past, you would spend all this money on digital marketing, but there was no such a thing as pixel tracking. Now, if you know what that is, it's just a simple way of measuring whether your campaigns are converting sales. Everybody's got it, but we didn't have that in entertainment. Now, knowing who that fan is has been, again, a huge revelation. And you know what happens in a South African marketplace is somebody buys 8 tickets, and then you get a database entry for one person. So you'd have 250,000 at Ed Sheeran, but you only have the data for maybe 30,000. So now that we have the technology, we know every single person in the house. So when you buy a ticket and you transfer it to somebody else, have to create a new profile, and that gives me the insights into who are the fans. So coupled with knowing who the fan is and knowing what the fan is willing to pay, it's driven our business forward in a big way. So now when somebody says to me, what can artist X, Y, or Z achieve in a South African marketplace, I can give an informed decision based on having the data. And that was one of the biggest problems we had in the past. You didn't have the data. You didn't have proper sales data. You didn't have proper marketing data. You didn't have proper conversion data. And now we have that. So now we can at least compete to some sort of level. Because one of the things I found out from my colleagues overseas, long before we even knew it, the amount of money that they make out of dynamic pricing and the empty seats that they can fill in the house by selling it to somebody who's willing to pay $10, $25, whatever, is the reason why they are getting all these artists, why they are sustainable, is because they're filling their venues with the right technology. So it's been an incredible experience, but as I said, it's just knowing the fan and having the data and being able to make the right business decisions by having that data has been the key.
Thank you so much. Manuela, the question I have for you is, because you have done PR and marketing across so many iconic events over the years, you've seen the ticket customer experience go from being almost a financial transaction to RFIDs. So I want to know how that transformation within the technology space has helped to further push the marketing of events. Did it become a selling point?
Sorry, reframe that. Sorry, just...
So back in the day,
Yeah.
you could just get a wristband and the rest of your transactions at an event were cash-based.
Yeah.
And you've worked at events where that was a model that was happening before, and then you had businesses that move in with RFIDs where now all of your
Yeah.
money is in your wrist. I wanted to know, has that been like a marketing driving force? Have you seen the innovations of technology that way become a selling point for a ticket buyer?
It's quite interesting. Like for us, so we do PR marketing for events, and promoters contract us to really try and help them sell tickets. In terms of RFID wristbands and all the rest of it, I think where it's a difficult one for me to answer because I'm not the event owner, but essentially moving, obviously feedback from people who go to festivals, they prefer a seamless approach. So it's much easier to be able to go to a festival and tap something than, cashless bars and all the rest of it. I don't know really how to answer that, Zethu. Sorry, I don't, in terms of the consumer, I guess what was useful about having RFID wristbands was the data that we could then give to sponsors to say, this is where people are buying, and it would help from a sponsorship perspective, but from a ticket sales perspective, and whether people were buying tickets because there was a cashless system, I just think a seamless festival experience would be a win, and that is part of it.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. And for you, Dale, you guys have used various forms of technology to change the festival. I mean, even last year, you were Uber Eatsing at the festival, Can you share other technological advancements that you might have done that are not necessarily consumer-facing, and how you think technology is going to impact the future of festivals?
Sure. So I think the first thing is having the data on our side for quite a while, because it's a over 18s festival. We had to have ID numbers and all of that information come through. So we were quite fortunate in that regard, where we had a lot of the data up front. And with all of that data, it allows you to talk to your audience a specific way. For me, because we an hour and a half, 2 hours out, weirdly, the most difficult thing for us is consistent Wi-Fi. So you can think about tech and you can try and get clever, but like the first thing, and it's a South African issue as well, is the cost of data, making Wi-Fi available, dead spots. So the first thing for us that's a massive challenge. We're busy laying fiber this week actually on, at Darling at the farm, because to not have that basic, that's an absolute basic, almost human right these days, is access and data and Wi-Fi. And so that's our first thing this year, is making sure that that's the case. Secondly, we work with Admiral. They are the app partners for Coachella, for the Formula One, etc. And the ability to, I think sometimes not enough festival goers engage with the app. But that app gives you the opportunity to fully curate your festival experience. You can put reminders, push alerts. It gives you the opportunity to make sure that you're not missing specific acts. You run 3 days worth of lineups. You want to see this small artist from the US. Make sure you're not going to miss them. They're going to be at X stage. But it also gives the brands the opportunity to connect with the audience. So we can do push notifications to the audience when they're walking past a specific bar. You can get an announcement that there's a drink special that's taking place. You can help with movement of the crowd. So if you need specific movement, or you're trying to plan to get an audience, because it's a big site, if you want to make sure that you want to get your audience to the main stage at a specific time, you can create drink specials around the main bar.
And send notifications.
And send
That's
notifications and make sure that the guys are getting drink specials and starting to move across that space. And so things like that are valuable. We went the RFID route as well. The information was very valuable. But to Lyndon's point, sponsorship is so critical that when the banks came in and wanted to try and push the tap technology, we went to the tap technology because we needed that revenue from a sponsorship perspective, which has also been seamless. It's been great. But you have lost that. So what we're bringing in this year again is wristbands with RFID, but it's going to be a very simple thing whereby access to different sections will light up green or red on your wristband based on if you allowed in that section or not, and that'll be very valuable from our perspective. Making sure we're creating safe spaces, making sure that if someone's supposed to be in priority camping.
I guess that also saves you time with like safety briefings
100%,
and security
big time,
changing. It's
big
just
time.
one person who has a point.
Exactly. And that's very valuable from a security perspective, from the manpower. And so we're implementing it this year, and we're going to really double down next year, but it's just to get an indication of it. But we're always open to it. We're always looking to it and see what we can do. That's, I suppose, a handful of the ideas. But the big one is just consistent Wi-Fi, weirdly. Yeah.
Thank you. We will be posting on social media, not like it has anything to do with marketing, but Lyndon, are there ways in which technology has also really significantly helped the events that you have worked on?
Right now, what we did this year was live streaming, which was great because normally we would launch an event and you'll have the attendees there only. This year, for the first time, we actually had a hybrid, and we did live streaming, so thousands of people could watch all over as we announced the lineup, and we had some performances, and that was fantastic. And then we had a women's event last week, and the same thing. So live streaming has become important to us on these side events, not with the main festival. I think the main festival, it will be this kind of app. I think will be helpful. We don't have that as yet. But the other thing we did this year as well to connect with different audiences, etc., we started a Joy of Jazz channel on our music apps and on our newspaper apps, where people could communicate and interact, etc., post photos, ask questions, etc. And we found that was quite exciting. And then we even plugged in a radio station, another jazz radio station, into the app. So I think in the music industry, we're probably a little bit, in our case, a little bit slower. We will not enter the issue of NFTs and metaverse and all those kind of things that we need to look at. That's really where the innovation is. What we're doing are generally are standard anywhere else. I think the challenge for all of us is to look at new ways for the next year whereby we can connect differently with people.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I also just realized, would you like to ask a question? No, I can go after that because I'm going to change the topic again.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it's important that we do currently, like Instagram, we see great following. The traditional ways of communicating and promoting an event, it gives you the same kind of slower result, but you get fast results, but more higher engagement. Because right now you want to engage with people. You want to be able to not only know that people have viewed you, but that you want them to engage. So you get higher engagement with the likes of Instagram and TikTok, etc. So yeah, it's quite funny. I'll just use one example on something else that we did. During COVID, I started cooking every day one, because I thought it was going to last for like 15 days or something, right? And I said, day one, I'm cooking this, day two, and then I went on Instagram and a lot. And then we thought, well, why don't we ask South Africans to communicate with us through TikTok and Instagram and tell us what they were doing. And we gathered all of that information, and then we eventually made a documentary called United Apart, where we showed that we were united but we were apart. But it all came through Instagram and TikTok, etc. And we then sold it to Showmax eventually. So I think it's important that we are on those platforms, and we must engage, but we also have to do it in a very, very creative manner. And co-creation is also important now. I mean, you can now with technology, for example, another one, a few years ago, we told the artists when they come over not to bring their whole band. This is a couple of years ago already. And we said we'll use our local backup artists, live session players. And they would send the music. And then when they get here, they must come a few days earlier to practice. Now with technology, they can send it and they can practice together. And those are new. So we will encourage that they use local artists to back them up instead of just bringing other session players. That's another way of stimulating the economy, but using technology to be able to make that doable.
I think I also want to add to answering that question. So when I used to work at Rocking the Daisies in 2018, it was the one and only time that the whole festival was live streamed for the entire weekend. And it is an incredibly costly exercise. Not only are you booking these international artists based on their US dollar pricing, that they're not going to give you a small discount, but to get that level of crew and people who are qualified, who have the equipment to safely fly over festival goers, to put on a production of that level that people can track the entire time is so expensive to an event that's already using high dollar pricing to come together. So you found that there are new ways that brands are leveraging things like this. I'm going to pass it on to you, Manuela, because I know that you guys are strategically also going to be live streaming the pink carpet and the importance of basically live streaming that versus the whole event. But an interesting thing that Rocking the Daisies did last year is identifying platforms like your TikTok or your Instagram, and instead of live streaming the entire show or a performance, they liaised with the artists backstage, who are very big ones, to be like, hey, 5 minutes into your set, can I give you this phone? And all of a sudden, Rocking the Daisies was live on Instagram or live on TikTok. So you found that those are creative ways. What you see with Burna Boy is usually a very high, big production that comes with a partner like Apple Music. And then they're able to identify the primary platforms where people consume these live streams, which is quite like TikTok. So I'm going to pass it on to you on the subject of live streaming on TikTok. If you can share more about why the purple carpet and not the entire event?
Sure. So for those of you who came into the room late, one of the event properties we own is the Content Creator Awards, the DSV Content Creator Awards. And we've been asked by so many people to live stream the event. It's an event in Joburg. A package show will be put on television afterwards. But there are various reasons we don't live stream it. First of all, we book an artist to perform or a talent to perform at the event. The minute they know that it's going to be live streamed, a lot of them will ask for more money to do that. But the other thing is you run a risk of, if something goes wrong and you're live streaming it. We had an event in Cape Town, a comedy event, a few months ago. And one of the newcomer comedians, it was being live streamed on TikTok, and it was an old venue, and we had signal issues, and we had to cut the live stream because it just was buffering too much. I'm so relieved we did, because this young comedian got up and he said a joke that was in quite poor taste, and if that had been live on TikTok, it would have completely damaged the event property and the sponsors. And this poor guy, he was just new. It wasn't like he did it intentionally, but we were very relieved. So you can't, for example, comedy really live stream it very easily. It's a bit of a risk. And as for an event, you know, in producing the DSP Content Creator Awards, if we had 4 or 5 days to do rehearsals and that show was going to be absolutely perfect, we'd put it on live on TV. Do you know what I mean? Or on TikTok. But a lot of us don't have the rehearsal time to make sure that show is going to be absolutely seamless. But of course, we do want the hype on the night. So what we do is we have the purple carpet, and we'll do a live TikTok live from the purple carpet for an hour before the event starts. So all the interviews with all the artists and content creators as they're arriving, you know, so everybody gets a kind of glimpse as to who's there. And then, of course, they get very, very upset when you stop the stream at 7:30 or 7 o'clock before the event starts. But that at least gives us and gives the TikTok viewers an opportunity to be part of the event without necessarily live streaming the event at the time. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, and thank you also for your question. I realized earlier I never introduced myself and like how I got here. Like I just told you guys my name, and then I told
We
everyone
all
else
know
here.
you, Zethu. I
No,
mean,
but
come
by
on,
my job,
content
my real
creator
job,
extraordinaire.
Manuela. I'm going to do this introduction now because now we're going to go into the music space briefly. Dale is also the managing director of Stay Low, which is an amazing record label that is based in Johannesburg. It's got Lord Cares, Mars Baby, Herc Cut the Lights. Is Herc Cut the Lights the full name? Oh, it was just Herc. Isaiah. Shuda Kum, so many amazing artists come from this space. So where I fit into this whole equation, I work at Platoon, which is an artist and services label that was created by Apple. So it's like Apple's version of a record label. So I create marketing strategies for musicians, for the releases of their albums, their singles, and things like that. So Dale, I wanted to ask you, because you wear so many hats and one of them is at Stay Low, what are your predictions on what's next with the way that artists are making music, distributing their music, and marketing their music?
Yeah, so we started a record label in 2020 during lockdown, funnily enough. Not a lot of people were starting new businesses, but one of the reasons we did it was because I felt like we had enough of the network, from the small live jazz venues to the big festivals to the hospitality, the hotels and stuff like that that we're involved in, that we had enough of the industry, but that we weren't just connecting that final little dot, which was the local artists. We didn't decide to sign like big artists and throw some money and just try and get market share. We decided very deliberately to do artist development from scratch. And what I've seen in that process over the last 3 years is that, one, major labels have no idea how to break artists anymore.
No, it's tough out there.
Yeah, no idea.
I'm not from a major. Peace. Y'all be safe though.
Yeah, and because the reality is that this access, you know, through multiple different distributors, the ability to make music in your house, get somebody to engineer, mix and master your project at relatively low cost, it's created incredible opportunity for so many artists, but it's also stopped the need to develop artists. And so what's been happening from a label perspective, including from an indie label perspective, is that an artist will pop up, you have immediate access to them, you don't have to know them, their song would have done incredibly well, so they throw a deal at the guy. They throw a deal, he takes the deal, but they have no idea how to recreate what he did. He doesn't even know how to recreate what he did.
And they're getting so many guys at the same time that they're not grabbing those people
Exactly.
and developing and growing them into bigger
100%.
artists.
So then that's exactly it. So then they end up signing 100 people, but they have no idea how to replicate it because they no longer have the system of actual artist development. So my gut feeling is that we're going to start going back towards real artist development. I think a lot of artists are feeling that themselves. There's less money in the industry off the back of the streaming, the fact that the streaming isn't really regulated, that every streaming platform will give you a different amount of money. And so my feeling is that's the way we're gonna go with artists, where artists are gonna really start, labels, indie labels, major labels are gonna start focusing on artist development again, and actually just being true to the art and not just trying to catch a single hit and then see what happens next. But I think, again, the big thing for me within that space is that social media has also given a complete, it's like a guess. I've seen artists with 1 million followers, and they stream exactly the same as an artist of mine on our label that's got 20,000 followers.
And it's such a common thing that
Yeah.
people aren't aware of, you know?
Exactly. And so you look at this artist, he's got this incredible following, he's got 1 million followers, and he streams the exact same as an artist with 20,000 followers. And again, from a major label perspective, it's impossible to know. You look, you see 1 million followers, they've got a great song, and you jump and jump at them. So legitimate fans, one of the things we do with our artists is we try and get them to engage with their fans. Lord Kez sells art, for example. She paints, she sells art. One of the reasons she does that is to get an indication of, do her fans spend money on the things she does? It sounds like a small thing, but it might be 500 Rand. The piece of art might be 700 Rand, 500 Rand, 300 Rand.
It's also teaching them an entrepreneurial spirit, you know,
100%.
because you have a lot of musicians who decide that music is going to be it, and I'm not going to get another revenue stream because I want to be known for just that,
100%.
and it's not sustainable.
That's spot on. And a big thing that I've been trying, currently unsuccessfully, but it's a big thing that I'm working on, is to get emerging artists to understand that having a job is amazing. It gives you incredible flexibility with labels. It gives you the opportunity to pay for a lot of your own stuff. It means when you come to the table and you're getting offered something, you're getting offered an advance, you're not desperate, you don't have to throw yourself at it, you can actually negotiate your deal. And this idea that if I'm an artist, I don't have a job, I've been pushing quite hard to change that mentality and to create other revenue streams. And so I think that that's probably the best way to go, is emerging artists actually getting jobs, utilizing the opportunity and the access to market, but then actually developing their craft over a period of time. Yeah.
Amazing. One of the many ways that you guys have been developing your artists, which I find quite fascinating, but I guess it comes with all of the properties and things that are at Steyn Entertainment. I've noticed you book bars to play at Rocking the Daisies. Suddenly bars is at a random game reserve with Lord Kez recording music. So explain that process to me. Like, how do you go from convincing this big artist to collaborate with a Stalo artist and having a product in the end, and how you identify the importance of that for your artists?
Yeah, so the first thing is I've got a bit of a unique story in terms of how I've ended up with a lot of these relationships. I'm a game ranger, right? And so as my side hustle, you know?
It's the most surprising thing ever, that
So
at heart.
Yeah, in my heart, I'm a game ranger. And so my first business was a travel business, and I used to guide, and I used to take people from all over the world. I ended up connecting with a handful of very high-profile celebrities from the US. I'd say probably I've guided Clint Eastwood. I was offered to guide.
Casually.
I was offered to guide Gaddafi. You know, I would say the person where things started to adjust on that side was Kelly Rowland, when I guided Kelly. And then I started creating these relationships in the US with the likes of Rock Nation, with the likes of Dreamville, and started creating these relationships outside of the music. Alongside the fact that we do a lot of these things, that level of trust has been massive for me. So it is a difficult thing to recreate because it's happened in this weird, unique way. But because I've got this level of trust with a lot of the international market, it's what motivated us to create the record label. And that level of trust, we also have access to assets. The Random Game Reserve is owned by our partners, so we have access to it. We've built out the jazz club. Guys can sit and record. We've got a recording studio in town in Joburg. And so we've been, very deliberate about that. Anytime we bring artists to South Africa, the first thing is whether they want to be here. So that's a big thing for me before we spend any dollars, is does this artist want to come to South Africa, or do they want to get a check? Once an artist wants to come to South Africa, we then create as many collaborative opportunities that suit the artist as possible. And then we place them with our artists first, ideally, but also any artist. So if they want to work with, with Milkshake, a hip-hop producer, or who knows, you know, we're happy to plug them with anybody once they're here, but we're very deliberate about the fact that we want to get music coming out of those camps. We just did
And coming out through Stalo.
Yes, ideally
Amazing.
through Stalo, but you know that's quite a complicated thing. Who owns the music, where it lies? And so I'm not precious about where the music gets released. The collaborative thing is the important thing, because you're not going to make loads of money on one song. but you're going to create a whole atmosphere and a whole way of doing things. We just brought out an artist called Kenneth Whalum. His dad is like jazz royalty, Kirk Whalum, and so he plays sax for Erykah Badu, he plays for Maxwell, he plays for Jay-Z, but he's his own recording artist. We brought him out. We didn't pay him anything to come. We did a collaborative thing with him where we said, come out, we're going to host you for 10 days. You're going to do a couple of shows in our jazz club. We're going to take you on a recording camp. You're going to work with our artists. And the most beautiful song has come out of that camp with Mars Baby and Kez. Mars Baby on production, Kez on vocals with Kenneth. And it's a small story, but I'm also leveraging because these guys are going to be the next superstars. And if we can leverage now, and Kenneth Whalum becomes Drake, for lack of a better word, a better example, we've gotten in early, But that collaborative thing, and we've done camps where nothing comes out. And we've done camps where Bas, this incredible Dreamville artist, makes music with Kez. And so we want to get music. That's like first and foremost, is we want guys to collaborate and then release those songs. And so because we're deliberate about it, it slowly comes out.
Wow, at this rate, I'm trying to be signed to stay low, like wasting time marketing. Yes.
Sure. So I think the on the artist side, it's such a personal thing, So the first thing is I'm like a R&B soul guy, When Music Soul Child was here last month, I was very happy, And so I'm naturally inclined to those types of artists. We're flying an artist from Cape Town out next week. She's coming to Joburg. No, she's not signed to us. There's nothing clever. There's no idea of her making money with us yet. But we want to get a feel for who she is as a person. We were sent her stuff. She looked amazing. So we've flown her out. She's going to stay at our art hotel in Joburg. We've got a recording studio in-house. And she'll work with our producers who live in the building. She's going to work with our songwriters who live in the building. And then we'll get a feel for the person. Because the one thing is that it's such an intimate thing, making music. You need to know that you're working with people who are aligned with what you want to release. I think something artists do is they get excited about how much money they're going to get or some sort of advance they're going to get. And I'm really not big on that. I don't do this big advance story. For me, it's about being collaborative, about finding and creating spaces for guys to work authentically. And so you need a little bit of luck in terms of getting your music seen by the right person and them resonating with it somewhat. But there's also consistency there where eventually people give in. I've got a story that's not related to the music, but there was a guy who worked at our hotel. He was the valet. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And he asked me for a different job every week for about a year. He's like, yo, I'm the guy. I don't just park cars. You have to trust me. I'm the guy. And he carried on and he carried on and he carried on. Eventually I said to him, yo, I don't have anything for you to do. So you're going to just come and work with me and you're going to do odd things because I love your tenacity. That was 3 years ago. And he's the operations manager for the whole hotel. And he's completely changed his life. He earns 7-8 times what he used to earn. But that relentlessness of believing that he was the guy and telling everybody, and not everybody, but a person who he thought was capable of making a difference every week that he is the guy, and then applying himself with hard work is critical, And so that relentlessness as an artist, the hard work as an artist, are you actually, do you sing beautifully, but are you going for vocal lessons? It's like there's this talent thing that comes with being an artist where guys are like, it's from God, you know? But it's like, yo, how hard are you working to be better this week? Are you better as an artist than you were last week? And if you are, you're headed in the right direction. It's inevitable. In terms of, just quick, I know, Lyndon, you want to jump in. In terms of opportunities for within the spaces, we have volunteers every year at Rocking the Daisies specifically. But we have like...
I would recommend that, by the way. I was a volunteer in 2014, and then I ended up the head of marketing. But do that. Volunteer. And what Dale is saying, when people say no or this is not the music submission we need, keep sending them. There are artists who have been sending me submissions for 3 years, and it's only 3 years later that the wider group felt like this is it. So it's that consistency and keep going, you know. No can feel like the end of the world, but it's not. Lyndon, I know you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea for artists to be involved in other aspects of the music arena, because you also sharpen your understanding of the arena. And there's not you ask, where do we go? You just have to contact us, you know, directly. We own Gqola Records, and Content Connect Africa is our partner, etc. But I see Paxton is here. What we did last year, we brought over about, I think, 4 or 5 Grammy Award-winning producers. Didn't make a fuss about it. We hired rented 2 villas in Camps Bay, put them up there, and then we reached out to some of our artists, like Paxton, Youngster, CPT, Youngster, and a few others, right? I can't recall all the, and we put them for a week with these producers. Shekinah was there. And we put
You're
them,
working with such big names, you forgot Shekinah.
yeah, I was like, and it was amazing. Like Trinidad James, he writes for Rihanna. He was there. Ruig Bailey, who does P. Diddy and others. We brought them in, and they went to the clubs at night, and I would leave them early, right? And then, honestly, what happened, these guys would hear sounds, and then they'll go back, and they'll produce through the night, and they'll work with our artists. I think about 40-odd songs came from that. You know, but that's what we like to do. Coming back to your story, is to be able to provide those opportunities where they can interact. We didn't pay these guys, you know, anything at all. We just provided the environment, and we invited our artists and sharpened, you know, some of their focus, etc. And now we see some good things coming out of that.
That's what I love about writing camps, you know. A lot of times artists understand that although there's no financial gain from this situation right now, there's such a creative and cultural exchange that happens during interactive sessions like that.
But it must be a consistent mindset, right?
Absolutely.
It must be these once-off things. You've got to constantly do it. Okay.
And also when people are there, to have the mindset that they're here to work as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a studio vacation with a few people they've always wanted to be in the room with. I want to now shift the discussion to content marketing. And Manuela, I want to talk to you. You are the CEO of the DSTV Content Creator Awards, which is absolutely incredible because creator marketing leads so many aspects of marketing now. I just want to know the inspiration behind creating an award system that recognizes digital creators when it didn't really exist in South Africa and the rest of the world is ahead of us. Could you let us know a bit about that?
How the idea came about. Picked for it, lockdown. No, no, really. Thanks, Zethu. It's it's been an incredible journey to create the Content Creator Awards. The idea came to me during lockdown, really, honestly. I was at home with my 3-year-old little girl for 32 days, just the 2 of us. It's a blessing, but it's also really, really difficult. You know, and content creators actually really kept me going. Like, I was about to lose my mind the one day, and then I'd be scrolling through my feed, and I'd see somebody post something. I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. And so really, and obviously the content creation became massive during lockdown. People, had time to actually produce content, but also TikTok had just launched. And people had time to actually consume content. And then I went to one of the awards events properties that celebrates the advertising industries. And while I was actually at that awards event looking at all of the case study videos, I thought you're all using content creators in your campaigns, and there is no event property out there that actually celebrates content creators. And that's how the idea for Content Creator Awards was born. But I went into the office on the Monday. I'm like, guys, what do you think of this idea? And you know, when you can see on the look of your team's faces, like you've hit something gold. But it's all very nice to conceptualize something like that. But we're not a big business. We don't have a big corporate behind us. We still had to try and make this thing happen. And luckily, we have great relationships with the likes of Deus, formed a relationship with TikTok after that, great relationship with British American Tobacco, and so essentially started approaching brands that we've worked with for years, who then immediately saw the opportunity to support content creation as well, and they came on board, and that's how the idea was born. And it's really been fantastic sort of working with creators and seeing how content creators are changing the face of marketing, and being this event property being kind of at the forefront of all of that.
And fan engagement as well.
Sorry?
And fan engagement.
Absolutely huge. Like it's just, it's so, you know, we initially launched the Content Creator Awards by asking content creators to do it for us, essentially, and to create a stitch announcing it. And now we don't have a huge marketing budget to put behind this thing. We're still small, we're only in year 2. But the content creators are marketing this event property for us because they believe in it so much, and everybody knows that if they get behind it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And the whole point really is to spotlight content creators. And to, you know, we've got 61% youth unemployment in South Africa. And if creatives are being given an opportunity to monetize their content and hone their craft, it's creating opportunity and work, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, very exciting.
Incredible. So great to hear. I can't wait for the awards next week.
Nominee over here, by the way.
Thanks. Lyndon, I wanted to know from you, coming from so many things, Gallo, the world of sports, Standard Bank, what of all the spaces that you've worked in, what are some examples of personalized fan engagement that you've kind of executed for any of the businesses and brands you've worked with?
In my experience, you find that fans would like to interact with particular, whether it's a football player or an artist, they love that. And you have to have the brand or the person and the fan opt in. If you don't have that, you know, you find you have a couple of problems as far as that is concerned. But there are a couple of platforms, and for example, you can pay a fee, and then you can send your details to Cristiano Ronaldo, and he can then say, "Happy birthday, Lyndon. Hope you have a great 35th." You know, yeah, that's 35th birthday party. So those kind of things are important, you know, being able to follow and give particular information. So over the years, I've seen provide information, provide engagement, provide opportunities to co-create as much as possible, and that's more so these days. People are now moving to the next phase of engagement, is I want to do something with you, and how do I do this? So that's quite important, and in particular music. So now there's technology that can record the beats, right, of various people, whether it's drums or guitars, and you can now follow that, and you can now create your own music as well by buying those things, and that's growing so much more. So those are all interesting ways, you know, of engaging, but the personalized one-on-one always trumps. People are willing to pay for it. They are willing to. So what we did, for example, we do some events called Up Close and Personal. We had Dion Warwick here a few years ago. However you want to pronounce her surname, Warwick or Warwick. But I had and I did an Up Close and Personal moment with her, where we had a few tables, and she performed a few songs. But now you are able as fans to buy that ticket, coming back to your 17,000. They're willing to pay for that, because you can't get that experience where you can sit with her and you can take photos with her and you can have a chat. Those kind of experiences worked. We also started something called Party for a Purpose, all right? And I did a couple of parties when it's the birthdays of celebrities like DJ Fresh when he was still fresh, Lebo M, and Yuma Sakela, Ernie Els, and you do those kind of birthday events, smaller events, sponsors come on board, and they get bespoke, you know, autographs or newsletters from the person, etc. So those are kind of experiences that works.
And for you, Justin, you have quite a big overview of, not only big concerts, but Ticketmaster globally. What have been some or one standout fan engagement strategy you've seen take place?
Well, we definitely are seeing that the marketplace of a ticketing business is changing. A lot more fans no longer need a Ticketmaster to connect to their fans. In the sports business, that's been ongoing for many, many years. It's known as the white label ticketing system. What I think is going to happen very soon is that in the future, if you want to go see a Beyonce or Taylor Swift, there probably won't be a Ticketmaster marketplace in between. We'll probably provide the software and some other services as we already do, but that connection between the fan and the artist is going to become a direct one. And that's, as we said, that's already in the sports business. It's nothing new, but we're yet to see an artist champion and pioneer that. And we're anticipating that that's the next frontier, is that you're going to buy from Beyonce and you're going to have a registered customer account with Beyonce. And we saw it now. If you weren't part of the Beehive, you couldn't even get tickets. If you weren't part of the verified fan program for Taylor Swift, which means you must have bought the CD, you must have bought merch, or must have bought tickets for the last tour.
Long-term commitment.
She's closed the loop. So that's what I think is going to be the future.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists, and thank you to all of you guys. If anyone has a question, I'm opening up the floor to anyone and everyone.
She doesn't like flying outside of America, so try.
Can I also? It's so, you said it, Justin. Sometimes it's guessing, eh? To get the number right in terms of what they're going to charge, to make sure you can get that model to work. It is so complicated. The amount of times people ask me, bring Taylor Swift. I can imagine how often you get it. It must be insane because we don't even do those shows, and I get asked it all the time. It's like, I think we would all love Sade, but flip, it's complicated to get something like that right. Can I just say, it looks like he disappeared, but we had a Grammy winner here 2 seconds ago. Voter was here. Yeah. When you were talking about the Grammys, I said we've got Voter Kellerman here. This guy's there we go. Yeah. And for me, it's incredible because, we don't have a lot of Grammy winners, but we've got someone like Voter who can walk into the room and sit down, and most of us are oblivious to the fact that he's actually been responsible for other people winning Grammys, which most people don't even know. That part of the story is that, he's been so collaborative that he's opened up doors for other people silently, just sitting there, and then doesn't make a scene about it and lets everyone else run, with that. So, I just wanted to just honor him for 2 seconds. He missed it, but I wanted to honor him. Yeah, nice one, sure. Yeah, one time, yeah.
On the pricing, right, just on that, I wonder, I see Rashid is here, who's a legend, of course, in Lombard, in dealing with artists, and good to see you, Rashid. But, we tried to get George Benson to come back. I remember you brought him a couple of years, or do you know now, George, instead of going, he's older, instead of his pricing going this way, it's gone the other way. If I must tell you, Rashid, that he wanted minimum of $750,000 to come here, compared to probably what you paid a few years ago. It's just difficult. So some of the artists, they just price themselves out of the market for reasons Justin said earlier. They don't have to come to South Africa. They can be in the US and they can be in London. But then there are others who just have no interest. Coming back to your point, do you really want to be here? So before when they came in, they wanted to touch Africa and touch the soil, and we could take them on safaris, and they were happy. Nah, not anymore. There was a question. I stole your mic. Yeah, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Hi there. This is a question to all the panelists. It's incredible what you are doing and what you have accomplished and achieved. So what happens as far as the local artist goes? Most of the time, or many times, we are not known. I'm a female orchestral conductor. I made history as the first woman of color to conduct the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra. I am not utilized. And we have
I can answer part of that, and then Lyndon, you can answer the other half. We met someone literally a year ago who had the same concerns as you, and we pushed them to contextualize themselves and their craft according to where music is right now, according to what people are buying tickets for, who people are interested in seeing, who is on airwaves, who can you challenge right now in order to bring an orchestra together that you can conduct that they would never have thought of. And she came up with Sanal Musician. And for the first time in his entire career, we created the Sanal Orchestra together with her, and as well as her team and the instrumentalists that they wanted to put together. And they challenged themselves to bring the live music, the music of this DJ into an orchestral space, if that's even a real word. And because we aren't in the direct line where we could help someone like you, if there is a concept that you have and it happens to be an artist that we work with, we're able to then work with you to create kind of a proposal for them of, instead of going to gig the way you always do in December, or tour the way you always do, or put on a show where you are playing to 5,000 people, it's your show, but all you're doing is DJing, and your incredible collaborators like Yomsaki, Amifaku, all of these people are just coming in, standing on a mic and going, why don't you give them an experience? So that's another way that you can approach it, because opportunities like that are really incredibly tough. And as you say, it is a man's world in some of these spaces. And where you can, I would really highly recommend, you never know when an artist might be open to that idea, if you want to challenge yourself in that kind of way.
Can I say, was that Offense that came to? Yeah. So I've also dealt with Offense, she's a female conductor, and she's had that same spirit that I spoke about, where she's relentless. She moved into the building where we were because she knew there would be an opportunity for her to connect with us. She has messaged me relentlessly to get me to connect her with Solange, or because she thought it was perfect for her brand, etc., etc. And so there's an element of taking on the responsibility and making sure that you are forcing your message out there, because it's an incredibly unique selling point to be a female conductor, especially a female conductor of color in South Africa. And that selling point is you need to pick that thing and run with it and be relentless with it, because it's sellable actually, as long as you contextualize it the way Zethu mentioned and make it a bit more receivable at certain times for more current audiences. But it's an incredible skill set. Just from my perspective and the events we do, it's something that would appeal to me. I didn't even know that was something that was done by anyone other than Offense, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say self-promotion, self-promotion, self-promotion. This is unfortunately, and you have to talk about it. It's important. What I did, for example, last week for a function, I told them to give me an all-female band. That's it, just to help and promote. And we had sat with Sapiva Dana and others. We had a fantastic event. Everybody. Well, I was the only male that forced myself there. For my 35th, yeah. So we are committed to that. I was saying earlier, that's why we joined the Global Citizen, because we really want to highlight people. So we will take your details and write a story in the Sowetan or Sunday Times, etc. And once you tell a story like that, people get to know about you, and it is a story worth telling. But you have to keep going and tell your story, and don't get tired, and don't get depressed about it. That is unfortunately the reality, right? And we must try and facilitate that. I met another guy, no, it's a guy, it's not a girl, what's his name? Edgar Musa in the Eastern Cape. This guy sent so many emails, and at the late stage somehow brought it to my attention, but the guy had more than 100 emails. And then I got it, and then I got our team to listen to him. They listened to him. We wrote a story in the Dispatch and the Herald, etc. And then he was a SAMA nominee for Best African Music. So it doesn't come easy. If it was easy, then everybody else would just mop you up. But great story, and I'm sure we'll be able to try and promote that.
Okay, I will take you, and then we'll go there and back there.
Yeah, so on my side, we do lots of different size shows. So we'll do 200 people, we'll do 20,000 people. And so because we have quite a wide range, we're not doing like 60, 50,000 people. And so those shows, for my guess, is very specific who would open for acts like that. On my side, if sonically it aligns and we're capable of seeing that this person can engage with an audience, you've got a chance. But you need to the same point, you need to continuously push yourself and your own brand. You know, something that's a big thing for me with a lot of our artists is we use our own artists in some instances to open shows, but we don't just use our own artists. And then we've had to force our artists to continuously perform to get themselves sharp enough that they are capable of doing shows like that. Because sometimes there's an element of, you're an incredible singer-songwriter, you're a good performer, but can you engage intimately with 200 people in a room? Do you have that capacity? How many times have you done 20 people? How many times have you done 50 people? How many times have you done 5? You know what I mean? And that's the pattern, is that you need to follow that journey from that 20, 30, 50, 200, and you need to be able to present that and then tell your story. But you also need a bit of luck. Like I say, I know it doesn't sound very clever, but you need to have a little bit of luck and have a little bit of an opportunity to go and say, who else is getting opportunities that I like? If I'm looking at an artist and I'm saying, Lord Cares keeps getting these opportunities. Why is she getting these opportunities? Scratch the surface. Oh, okay, well, she's connected with X. These guys do these kinds of shows. Do they book other artists? Spend time and actually work hard on getting your answer. Don't go and say, I don't know what the answer is. Work hard and take that responsibility to find the answer, and then just keep asking. That's on me. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I think we'll take our final question. Yellow jacket. Hello, sir.
No, I remember that. That was here at Canal Walk. There was a big tent. I think we had Burning Spear and a couple of other big reggae acts. We've done a few over the years. I think we've done UB40, or the one side of UB40, about 9 times. This year we went to Durban. I voted against UB40 on this time around. I thought, nobody's going to go. He's been here so many times. And then I had to eat humble pie. We sold 2 Durban ICCs. We've never done 2 Durban ICCs with anybody. So it certainly is a genre that continues to enjoy a lot of support. And over the years, we've tried with Damien Marley, but he was trying to define himself a little bit more of a big dance reggae hall act and more mainstream. And that's really what it takes. We're far away from everything. Nowadays, if you want to sit in the front and you're coming out of America, it's $15,000 to $20,000 in airfare. If you're sitting at the back, it's $6,000. So to put that together, unfortunately, needs a bit of scale for most of these guys. And a lot of reggae bands, they're an extensive band. There are 6, 7, 8 guys on the road. All need to support families. It's a week out. You're suffering with jet lag. So it's a difficult business model. And typically in our space, if you can't fill arenas or a stadium on your own or in a combination of other acts, once you've paid all the expenses and the business manager and the agent and the freight and the airfares and everything else, there's so little left for the band. And then you may as well just go to New Orleans and you play on Essence and you make 14 times the money and you sleep home the next night. So it's difficult. I think the only answer to that is to try and create properties that leverage economies of scale and can have more people there and attract sponsors and create some sort of happening which becomes part of the cultural fabric. That's really the only way. Whether reggae stands up on its own, I'm not sure. As a combination with other things in the urban music space, definitely. That very well may work.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate all of you who stuck around. And if you would like to ask anyone a question as we roam around, feel free to, except for Lyndon. He's got to go. He's got a 4 p.m.
Thanks. Can I just answer? In terms of rocking the daisies and playing, we've got submissions. You know, sometimes guys, they overcomplicate things. Send the email to the submissions email and you have an opportunity to play. It's as simple as that. Guys go through the process, they have a listen, and if it makes sense and there's a body of work that you can present that shows that you're the right kind of person. For me, I'm really trying to book Cape Town acts specifically at Daisies wherever possible. It's just we have so many slots that it isn't always easy. But just send 2 submissions continuously, and then Vota popped his head in there like a king over there at the back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one.